Hello there, and welcome to yet another edition of Clearview. This is a program whereby you send in your complaints, you send in comments and suggestions about the way things are going within the polity. Could be some other areas of education, of health, of agriculture. Just mention it, and we're here to attend to your comments.
The Australian High Commissioner to Nigeria, Paul Lehman, made the point at the pre-departure reception for 8 Nigerian beneficiaries of a full master's scholarship to study in Australia. He said the Australia-bound beneficiaries have nothing to worry about.
It's also terrific for our bilateral relations. It's an opportunity for Australians to get to know a little bit more about Nigeria and vice versa. So when these students return, they are in a way ambassadors for your country, and they bring back to Nigeria the skills that they have learnt while they were students in Australia.
Nigeria's head of service, Winifred Oyoita, expressed delight with the Australian government's gesture.
We are really very full of gratitude for the government of Australia and the Australian people for extending this very warm hand of a fellowship to the Nigerian government, and especially to the public sector. The public sector, the civil service, like we know, is the engine room of all government's policies and programs. And if we are not able to develop the capacity that is so important to push government forward, then we'll be lacking, and then there'll always be this question mark.
Some of the scholarship beneficiaries expressed their delight to AIT.
The process was so transparent. I never knew or thought that there could be anything like this going on in Nigeria that would be so transparent, with you knowing someone or talking to someone to help facilitate.
My hope is that for those of us who are privileged to benefit from this scholarship, and indeed other scholarships too, that when we come back, we'll actually have the opportunity to be able to impact, skills, knowledge, to our colleagues.
Most of the beneficiaries of the scholarship are senior civil servants selected through a process described as most transparent.
Well, some 2 weeks ago or thereabouts, we had this scholarship doled out, and the people were there and we watched it, and this was arranged, put together by the Australian High Commissioner in Nigeria, and people became so impressed, and people were calling in, and people were sending in letters, and we went all out on Clearview to see that we should bring the #1 man that will be able to explain a lot to us about Nigeria-Australia relationship. And I'm pleased to inform you that on this week's edition of the program, I have joining me the Australian High Commissioner to Nigeria, His Excellency Paul Lehman. Paul, you're welcome to Clearview.
Sam, it's a great pleasure to be with you.
You're welcome. Now, let's start this way. How do you describe Australian relationship with Nigeria?
The relationship between our two countries, I think it's important to remember, goes back a long way. It's very rich and it's quite deep. So for two countries that are, in many ways, couldn't be further apart geographically, our ties are very strong. And sometimes I think it's the distance between us that brings us together. We have many shared values that we hold as two people. We have shared heritage in some ways. We have shared language. We have shared aspirations. But I always like to remind people that our bilateral relationship goes back a long time. In fact, we've had diplomatic relations here in Nigeria since independence in 1960. So we have been long-standing partners with Nigeria. So over those decades, you'll see plenty of examples of strong people-to-people links at the political level, at the cultural level, the education level. So I'm very honoured and proud to be here as the High Commissioner to further deepen that relationship.
Good. How many years have you spent here, Almas?
I've nearly been here 1 year.
Okay.
So yes, I've had a little bit of an opportunity to get to know Nigeria and her people. That's still a work in progress. I have many more travels planned around the country.
Yeah. So how do you describe Nigeria and Nigerians since you got to this country?
I think the thing that strikes a visitor or a guest like me is the warmth and depth and sincerity of the Nigerian welcome, the Nigerian smile. It's very, very easy to feel at home in Nigeria for an Australian, and it's one of your best kept secrets is the hospitality, the energy, and the warmth of people across the country, no matter where you go.
Mm. Now, before we go into the area of education, which actually is your reason for coming here, but we will not want to shove aside some other areas that are really in the news. The area of this insurgency in Northeast, Boko Haram, I know Australia is sending aid to Syria and to some other troubled areas of the world. How do you react to the insurgency in Nigeria? Is there something we are doing wrong that is making this thing to escalate?
What I would say to that, Sam, is that Australia shares Nigeria's concerns about the emergence of violent insurgencies across this region and across other regions, including in the Middle East and the Gulf region. So we are putting our efforts together with Nigeria's to thwart the growth of violent insurgencies and to push that back so that people can live in peace and can prosper in the way they ought to. So we are one of the largest contributors, certainly outside of NATO, to the military contributions to the fight against ISIL or Daesh in Syria and Iraq. And part of our objective there is to prevent the further spread of that insurgency, including to regions in this neighbourhood. So while we might not physically be on the ground in Nigeria, we're certainly making a contribution by pushing back with other global efforts against this scourge.
All right, we've been doing some kind of introduction, and after this break, we'll go into the nitty-gritty of education. Please stay with us. You're welcome back. Now, my guest is the Australian High Commissioner to Nigeria, His Excellency Paul Lehman. And I want to ask you now, what inspired the commission into scholarship?
Our scholarships program goes back, like our bilateral relationship, many, many decades with Africa and with Nigeria. And why we do it? It's one thing that Australia and Nigeria can do together to produce a tangible result, a positive, tangible result for the future. About the first thing you learn when you come here or spend any time looking at Nigeria is the enormous depth of human capital and talent here. So for us, it's a way of making a contribution to not just the individuals, but to Nigeria as a country. Nigeria benefits, the region benefits, Australia benefits, the world benefits when Nigeria is taking advantage of its human capital, developing those bright, talented young Nigerians to be leaders in their particular field. So that's why we do it. It's a win-win for everybody, so we're really delighted to have the support of the Nigerian government for this program. We're delighted to receive applicants of the highest calibre every time we put out an expression of invitation and an expression of interest. So for us, this is a tangible way to make a contribution to Nigeria's future by enabling Nigerians to do that.
Okay. And it's even a wake-up call to other countries too, who will really want to assist Nigeria in issues like this. But then, do you have specific areas? Like say, it's only for Greek, it's only for political science, or what?
We do target areas where we think Australia has particular expertise and experience that would benefit Nigerian students. So we're looking at how governance works in the mining and extractive sector, how to improve agricultural productivity, how to develop thinkers and minds here who want to make a contribution to public policy in the future. These are areas where we think we can provide particular value to students. We also look further afield at health and education, where there's a good case to do that as well.
Okay, okay. Now, what yardstick did the Commission use in the selection Not especially the last one. I think you gave scholarship to 8 people.
That's right.
8. What yardstick did the commission use?
Well, we're very fortunate in that we get a large number of very high quality applications, so we are able to take offer awards to the cream of the crop, and we're delighted because Nigerians do so well when they have the opportunity. In fact, just last week, a Nigerian student won the International Student of the Year award in South Australia, which is my home state. Okay. And he was awarded his prize by the Governor of South Australia. So we know that Nigerians do really well when they have this opportunity. So it's, to be honest, it's not difficult to find talented Nigerians to study abroad. The challenging thing is, of course, our program is limited in scope. We'd obviously like to do much more, but all of us have to live within our budgetary means.
Okay. But it's like all the 8 people were civil servants. Why not students that are just transited from first degree?
We look at people who are already established in their field of, or their professional fields, and look at where we can help them to go to the next level with some additional study, be it at the master's level or at a short course level. So while the program is also open to students who are working outside of government, it's true that over time the majority come from positions within the Nigerian government system. But we think that's a good investment to make, to strengthen Nigerian government institutions by giving up-and-coming new leaders the skills and experience to really make a difference to their departments, agencies and parastatals.
We got scores and scores of letters making inquiry into how to apply for the scholarship. How does one apply for the master's?
This is an easy one. There's a website, www.australiaawardsafrica, or one word, .org, where all of the information is available. Our master's program is currently now open for receiving applications until the 15th of December, and short courses are also open to the 15th of January 2017. But I'd encourage people to go and have a look at the website where all of the details are explained.
All right. And well, viewers, you can see the websites rolling on the screen now. That's where you go, according to His Excellency Paul Liman. When you visit the website, well, you just click on. It's something you can learn without any aid. Now, apart from education, in what areas, again, are you extending hands of fellowship to Nigeria?
Nigeria and Australia, there's important work we do at the political level in international forums, and where Nigeria is viewed by Australia as an important anchor nation for political leadership on the African continent and beyond. So we see our work with Nigeria at the UN, in the Commonwealth, as really critical. There are many challenges that don't respect borders. We talked a little earlier about the threat of insurgency, which certainly doesn't respect borders, but there are other things that we work together with Nigeria in order to promote positive change, not just in Africa, but across the world.
All right. You've been telling us about the bilateral relationship between the two countries. Are there things you still want to see within the relationship between the two countries? Or you are fulfilled?
I don't think as a diplomat you can ever be fulfilled, and what I want to see during my time, and obviously beyond, is a further deepening and enriching of our ties, and that cuts across areas including the institution-to-institution links, the people-to-people links. An important one is our trade and investment relationship, which I think has more room to grow, particularly as Nigeria and Australia, we both look to diversify our economies, which another thing we have in common, which is based on commodities. We have experience and expertise, say, in the mineral sector, which we've already had lots of discussions and involvement with Nigerian actors in that space. So there are there are things that I would like to see deepen and develop. We had a visit earlier this year from Professor Pat Utomi, who some of your viewers may have heard of, who's a prominent public intellectual here in Nigeria, a speaking tour in Australia. These sorts of things we'd like to see more of. We'd like to see Australians here, grow our student exchange. More Nigerian students are now choosing to study in Australian universities, which we think is great. Your viewers may be interested to know that Australia is now the country with the third highest number of international students in the world. So I would like to see both our countries know more about each other, develop closer links. Australia is the world's 12th largest economy. Africa is the emerging continent for the 21st century. Nigeria is a leader on the continent. All of those things behove us to keep working to deepen that relationship.
Very good. All right, so much on education. We'll now talk briefly on trade. How is trade going on between Nigeria and Australia? Are there things you want to tell my viewers that, well, if you have these commodities, you can export, and they'll be glad?
Absolutely. Look, I think this is one area where we are focusing a degree of effort to see if we can promote more trade and investment two-way between our two countries. Australia is a great trading nation. We have built our wealth on having an open economy, trading with partners near and far. So that's the attitude we bring, and to encourage investment by the private sector, to encourage development of industries that perhaps haven't had investment. So that's why I mentioned earlier about what we can do together in the mining space. But obviously it's always a two-way street. In fact, historically, Nigeria, or at least the Gulf of Guinea region, has been a source of many of our import of our petroleum products. There's been also Australia providing commodities in the form of wheat over time, one of our larger customers. So there is a high degree of two-way trade. Does fluctuate a little bit, but at some points Nigeria has been our second largest trading partner on the continent. So it's an important one that I think can develop further, particularly not just in commodities but in services. Export and exchange of experience and trade and ideas and knowledge, all of those things that Nigeria does not lack.
Well, your people in Nigeria, are there some specific challenges they are facing?
I don't think Australians in Nigeria face any different challenges than do Nigerians in Nigeria. In particular, we're all aware of some of the day-to-day challenges that we all face, but I wouldn't want to emphasise those. What we see are opportunities. We see the talent and the assets that exist here, and we share that sort of sense of optimism of looking forward, looking beyond temporary things like recessions, which hopefully come and go, to what's the longer term trajectory for a country like Nigeria, where we want to be part of that story, which is why we're here.
Now, recession has become something global now. You are an Australian and you have a big role to play in Nigeria. And already I know you are in tune with the kind of recession we are facing here. Do you have some suggestions to the government of Nigeria?
It's not really my place to advise the government of Nigeria. They have their own experts. But I would say that for commodity-based economies like Nigeria, and indeed to a certain extent like Australia, there's always a need to not just diversify the economy, but to make the economy structured in a way that allows it to be flexible to adjust to the changing patterns of demand and supply for goods and services around the world. So I come back to what I said earlier about being open and receptive to trade and investment, looking at where sectors can be invigorated. So not so much advice, but just observations from our own experience. we're coming off the back of a very, very large mining boom the latter part of the last decade and the start of this decade. So for us, for any country, this is not just something that Nigeria has to face, but looking at how to diversify the economy and make it flexible enough to respond to the changing weather that we have to confront.
All right, we are winding up the program now, and I recollect that should be 2, 3 or a year ago, Nigeria-Australia met on the UN Security Council.
Yes, we did.
What has the experience been so far?
We were very happy to have a year together, I think, on the council only a couple of years ago, and that's a really clear example of where our two nations work together. I mean, we are significant nations in our own respective regions. We in the Pacific and Asia-Pacific region, and here on the African continent. So it's important that global voices include leaders from particular regions, and this is where a really clear example of where we were able to make that happen as two countries.
No. All right, before you go, one, I want you to send a message of hope to Australians living in Nigeria before we now talk about Nigerians. Will you want to to say something to your people?
To Australians in Nigeria, well, we always encourage people-to-people links between our two countries. So it's always good to see Australians here. We always advise people, particularly if they haven't been here before, to be careful. Like any country, there's places where people should take care. But I would also encourage Australians here in Nigeria to really open their hearts and their minds to the experience of being here, to get out and meet Nigerians from all walks of life. It's a tremendously rewarding thing to do. I'm speaking from personal experience. It's one of the best parts of my job is being able to go to all corners of the country to meet people from all walks of life.
All right, talk to Nigerians. Because from all indications, Australia appears to have brought Nigeria close as a partner in progress. Nigeria is a partner in progress, and you don't really mind if Nigerians are finding time to come to Australia. Now, if you want to talk to me, what do you think I can benefit from Australia?
Look, I think what I would say to Nigerians is to don't forget about Australia. Nigerians are terrific in that you're famous for many things, but one of them is doing well abroad, like Australians. We have a reputation for wanting to explore and engage with the world. Nigerians are the same, so we share that spirit. So I would encourage Nigerians to think about their future and where it can include countries and partners that may be a little bit over the horizon, but are still close in other ways, if not geographically.
Yeah. Well, viewers, I have been having a chat with the Australian High Commissioner to Nigeria, His Excellency Paul Lehman, and I did say at the beginning of the program that he's here because we are so impressed about the scholarship granted some Nigerians not long ago, and we have been having scores of letters and comments commending the efforts of the Commission, and I say congratulations, Paul.
Thank you, Sam.
You people are doing well.
Thank you, Sam.
We are so glad.
Thank you.
And we hope other countries will take a cue and want to be like Australia and put a smile on the faces of Nigerians, most especially the students. Thank you very much again for coming on.
You're welcome, Sam.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That will be all on this week's edition of Clearview. Next week, I'll be coming around with another topic, another guest, and I hope you want to join us that time. I am Ojon Bello. Bye for now.